On my VS Code, I am going to start off by creating a new file message.js. So within the component folder message.js, in the file I am going to create a class component. Let me copy the code from welcome.js file and simply paste it over here and make the necessary modifications. I am going to change the class name to message and I will be exporting the same message. Once I am done with the change, I'll simply return welcome visitor in the JSX. So I'll just write welcome visitor over here. Now let me include the component in app.js and make sure to import the message component as well. So import message from component slash messages, and I'm going to just comment these code out and simply write message component over here. Now if you save the file and take a look at the browser, you should be able to see the text welcome visitor. Now here is our new requirement. We need to have a subscribe button right below the text, and when we click on the button, the text being displayed should change from welcome visitor to thank you for subscribing. Now if the message were to be sent from app.js file as a property, it will not work as the props are immutable. Once the message is set to welcome visitor, it can never be changed from the message component. And so the solution is to use component state. Let's see what are the steps involved. The first step is to create a state object and initialize it. And this is usually done inside the class constructor. So let's create a class constructor. And within the constructor, we call the super method. Now, what is this super method? This is required because we extend React component class and a call has to be made to the base class constructor, and then we create our state object. So this.state equals to, and it is equal to an empty object for now. Remember, we are inside a class, so we don't forget to use this keyword. State, by the way, is kind of like a reserved keyword in React. When you declare this dot state, React understands your intention. So we created the state object. Let's go ahead and initialize a property. I'm going to call it message, and the value is going to be welcome visitor, and I'll save the file. Now the second step is to bind this state value in the render function, and we do this very similar to props. Instead of this dot props, we simply use this dot state. So in the return statement where we have simply written the JSX, now in place of hard-coded value we simply write this dot state dot message, and I'll save the file and take a look at the browser. So you will not gonna see any changes over here, but because we are now using the state to render the message, we now have the ability to change the message. So let's create a button below the message. This button is going to help us to change the message. In step 3 we will add a button. Before we do that though, create a enclosing div tag over here and move the message inside the div tag. Why we did this? Because React want us to return only one element. Let's just add a button as well. Button, and we are going to name it as subscribe and save the file. Once I'll go back to the browser, we can see button below the text welcome visitor with the name subscribe. The fourth and final step is to listen to the click event on this button and change the message. We will take a detailed look at event handling in React in the upcoming videos, but this will be a glimpse into how a click event is handled on an element. If it seems confusing, try to understand what is happening and forget about the syntax and the details. We will come back to that in a video or two. So back in VS Code, on the button element, we are going to add an attribute on click. Very important that the event is camel case, C in uppercase. To the event we assign a handler, and this is again going to be within curly braces. We are going to have an arrow function, so parentheses, fat arrow function, and handler called this dot change message. Now let's define this method. So right after constructor and before the render function, change message and simply curly braces, and within the body, to change the state of the component, we need to call the setState method. So this dot set state, this method accepts an object which is nothing but the new state of the component. In the new state, all we need is the message to be thank you for subscribing. So message thank you for subscribing. So we listen to the click event and execute the change message method. Don't worry about how this arrow function works as of this video. Focus on the set state method instead. This is the method you need to call to alter the state of a class component. If we save the file and take a look at the browser, you should be able to see text welcome visitor and below that a button called subscribe. When I click the subscribe button, the text changes to thank you for subscribing. This example demonstrates what exactly state is in React. A state is nothing but an object that is privately maintained inside a component. A state can influence what is rendered in the browser, and lastly, state can be changed within the component. Alright, now I hope you have a slightly better understanding of props, state, and how they are used in React. We also had a quick look at the setState method, which is used to set the state in class component. Although it looks fairly straightforward, there is much more to setState than what we have seen. Let's take a more detailed look in the next video. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and enable notifications. I'll see you guys in the next one.